Welcome to the fourth presentation. I think Josh will be joining us in a minute. His avatar should be up there as well. Oh, I'm not this. And if you have any questions as we go along, please let us know. If you actually want to join us inside this world, I'm going to walk over here so you can scan this QR code. Part of what we intended was that you would jump into the world if you wanted to actually participate and have a seat inside the auditorium. So definitely let's scan that QR code if you'd like. It will ask you to download the application. It is a free application, and it is a metaverse application, right? So it's immersive. You can see that you can create an avatar that will look like you. But the idea for now is just to use a default if you'd like. We definitely can wait a few minutes. We should have had this up here beforehand to prep for this. But in any case, if you do join us, any of the 12 of you that I see are here in the room, that'd be great. And you will appear in the world. So take a few minutes, scan if you like. Here, actually, you know what? I'll move this to the front over here so that you can just scan it as you stand here and observe. And I see that Josh is here. Woo-hoo. Josh has joined me. Here he is. All right. So I guess we'll just wait in the chat. This is not AI generated. I do see Leonard is asking if this is AI generated. This world is not. This world is spatial.io, and it is a metaverse-like world. But the goal of this world is to present some of the stuff we'll be talking about in just a few minutes. Again, if you want to jump in, just go ahead and scan that QR code, download the app, and then you can hang with me and Josh here in the metaverse while we prep. Awesome. So let's give it a few. Oh, I see somebody has joined us. Very nice. A few people have joined us. Heck yeah. And once you've selected your avatar, if you just click one of these little circles on the ground, your character will go and actually sit down there. So yeah, jump around, do your thing, have fun. Part of what this is all about is having fun, making education engaging via immersive experiences. The graphics that are up there on the wall, Josh and I made actually from artworks and from some AI generated images using Midjourney. So that's part of what we're going to talk about today is this presentation on art from words. What does it mean to create art from words, and how can we use these new AI tools now to do some cool stuff? So like I said, if you want to have a seat, just click on one of these little pads. Your character will get over there and sit down. And in the meantime, we'll just give it a few more minutes, see if anybody else wants to join. I see some people joining already. We've got up to 5 in there. Maybe we'll take a photo once we're all in there, and we'll call it our first metaverse meeting. Here we go, first metaverse presentation at a Miramar College. So, yeah, this is great. I see they've worked on their avatars a bit. Selected some clothing, running around, love it. Let's see, I'm downloading the app. Yeah, go for it. Okay, and if you have any thing you want to share, if you're on a computer, you could do /hello, and you should be able to read the chat. Is that true, Josh? Can you read the chat?
In the metaverse?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, yeah. So if you guys want to talk or ask questions in there, you absolutely can. It does have microphone features, so once we do more stuff in here, you'll be able to sort of hear the people who are closest to you, and then you'll be able to sort of, as you walk away from people, the audio cuts off. But anyway, it looks like we have 6 people in here. So if y'all want to take a seat, I will start the presentation here. What we're going to show you is Frida Kahlo and Elisabeth Vigée-Lebrun. Josh was training me on how to say that name a little bit ago. 2 artists that both existed at their very different time periods. And Josh did some Photoshop magic to make sure that they could do what you're about to see. He put them in those frames. And then once we kind of go over this presentation, what we want to show you is this is just something that we've created in an interdisciplinary way. Really nothing other than creative passion led to this project. And we think it's really cool that you can do this type of stuff. So we want to show you an application of art from words. So let's go over this, and then I'll let Josh sort of take over and summarize his process, kind of what this was all about, and maybe we'll take a photo. Let me see if everybody's sitting down though, because that would be really cool to see. Yep, look at that. Oh, so cool. We got a little classroom. Let's do a screenshot of that, huh? Nice. Okay, I'll sit down too. Tell me if the volume is okay. I'm gonna go ahead and get the presentation started. This is just a quick 2-minute little video, and then we'll talk about some of what you see. Definitely write any questions you have on Zoom. So here we go.
My name is Frida Kahlo. As a woman in a world dominated by men, I fought to make my voice heard. And my art was a vehicle for feminist expression. I wanted to break free from the constraints of society. And my paintings were my battlecries. They were a testament to my resilience, my passion, and my determination to transcend the limitations imposed upon me.
My name is Elisabeth Vigée-Lebrun. I am a French painter. First and foremost, being a woman in the male-dominated art world was no small feat. It was a time when society would belittle and underestimate them. I had to work harder than the male artist to prove my worth and gain recognition. However, I was fortunate to have been born into a family of artists, which did allow me access to artistic training.
Okay, so that was our little video there that showcases what you could do with AI if you were mixing some disciplines. And I'm gonna let Josh take over here and sort of sum up the process, talk a little bit about what this was all about, and then if there are any questions, definitely I'll be looking to the chat so we can address them. Again, it's art from words, right? So taking this creative new approach to this AI and seeing how we can create cool new stuff. So here is Josh Alley.
I guess I can just sit here, right? 'Cause
Yeah,
we're not
yeah.
really-
Maybe put your avatar up there, right? So maybe we should be up there so that people can see us in
Oh,
the
there we go.
presentation.
Yeah. So one of the things that I would probably start off by saying here is
Or you gotta turn around, yeah.
Here we go.
There you go.
the years and years ago, I had this great idea. This was before AI really was a thing, and I thought it would be so cool if I could take something like the Mona Lisa and just have her start talking to my students. And then I thought, well, it'd be even more fun if I took my own face and photoshopped it onto the Mona Lisa and then had that start talking to my students. And I was able to actually do that, but it took me days and days to figure out how to just get all of that done. And by the time I got it done, it was like a 5-second clip where I just said, hey, let's talk about the Mona Lisa. And it took me way too long to actually get that completed. So that was a little disheartening. And I thought, this is a fun idea, but I don't have the time to do this ever again. And then just a few weeks ago, I think you had showed me was it Socrates and was it Bill Gates, right?
Yeah, with Socrates and Bill Gates have a debate.
They were both AI rendered images, and they were coming to life and having a debate with each other. And I said to Rodrigo, this is exactly what I've been looking for. Give me some more resources. And so he shared with me this website that I think we have a link at some point to, maybe, called did.com. And so the thing that took me like weeks to get done previously for a 5-second clip, these images that you're looking at, I was able to get those videos done in minutes because of the power of AI now. The photoshopping took quite a bit more effort. That image of Vigée-Lebrun, it is an actual self-portrait of her, and she had a hat on originally, and I had to go in and Photoshop the hat so that it was no longer there, because you notice they're a little wonky when they come to life and start talking, and the hat would stay in place and the face would be moving around. So I had to get rid of the hat. We had a bigger problem with Frida Kahlo, because my idea was to take a self-portrait of her as well and have the same thing, have her come to life. But the program we were using every time I would try to upload a painting from Frida Kahlo, it would tell us we weren't allowed to do that because she is too famous of a character. Because of issues with deep fakes and other things that you maybe have heard about, that is a real concern. And so I told Rodrigo I'm not able to get this image to work. So he went into Midjourney and we just created this image of Frida Kahlo. And I think anyone would recognize her as Frida Kahlo, even though it's technically not her or a painting she did. But it was enough to trick that program we were using, and it allowed us to create these. Then, so I've got the images in place. I went into, because I was just being lazy, went into ChatGPT and I said, pretend you're Frida Kahlo and tell me what it was like to be an artist at that time. Did the same thing with Vijay Lebrun. I said, pretend like you're this particular self-portrait and you're gonna tell the viewer what it's like to be Vijay Lebrun. And so it came up with these little scripts. That took, 15 seconds to get those scripts done. I took those scripts, copied them into the program that we were using, had to find a voice that worked a little bit for each of them, and that was a little bit more work. But then again, just in minutes, was able to take these two images, put in some text, tell the program to start rendering the video, and it's just like magic what it's able to do.
Yeah.
And we're very excited about this because for me, especially in art history, it opens up a lot of avenues for engagement with students, like seeing these artists come to life. But it's exciting, I think, for any field. Like those of you that maybe teach math, you could have a famous mathematician just come to life, start talking to your students in Canvas or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
We'll show you later on, you can make your own avatar, your own digital self. So I have this really creepy AI Josh to show you using the same software there.
If I could kind of jump in for a sec, I think the part about the voice was really interesting, and part of what we have to consider here is, you have these visual tools and they have certain limitations, and we're sort of learning what those limitations are in making the Frida, like Josh was pointing out with the deep fakes, right? It's trying to prevent people from making fake versions of known individuals. But then look what we were able to do is create one that's similar enough. Surely anybody looking at that image would say that is a Frida Kahlo inspired image at the very minimum. And actually what was cool about working with Josh on this particular project, just to share a little bit of the interdisciplinary stuff that I've taken away, it really has been the idea that Frida Kahlo painting, right, the background and the objects that are in it, we sort of talked about what would work and what wouldn't work if we were trying to be true to her art style, to sort of some of the things that are associated with her artwork, some of the oversized objects, or we had some monkeys in there at first, or we had some different backgrounds that had something to do with her work. And yeah, the idea that we spent hours, we'll show you in our presentation in a minute, all the different Vijay Lebruns that we made, and at the end of the day, we went with none of them because Josh could just do magic on Photoshop, and he used the original painting and sort of edited it so that it could do what it needed to do. He added the frames and sort of put them up on the wall there like they are in a gallery. And yeah, it's just cool to have these voices now come to life. And I created an Aristotle and a Descartes, since I'm using those for my rhetoric and sort of critical thinking discussions. Now Josh has these two painters, artists that could speak to each other, and to his point, whatever other speakers you want to bring to life now, you can really start to lean in that direction. So some of the creativity possible. Again, if you're joining us, here's the QR code. I do see we got some new individuals in here. Love to see it. At this point,
I wanted to talk about the voice thing.
Yeah.
Just real quick. You'll see when I show you AI Josh, it's not my voice. And it's because I just didn't have time to really get into that. I'm sure there's software to be able to do that. But what I thought was pretty fascinating is I found a website, I guess, that it had all these different options for voices to choose from. And so I didn't want to have, obviously, Frida talking with an American accent. And so it gave me, it was like 10 different Spanish speaking accents, which was really fantastic. Then let me kind of alter the voice to kind of match what I thought Frida would sound like. I've never actually heard Frida talk in a video or anything. I don't know if there is even that out there, but the first voice that it gave me that had kind of this Mexican accent, it was really high pitched, and I was like, I don't imagine Frida having a high pitched voice,
Right.
and so I was able to, I don't know exactly what the words are, but to kind of change the speed and tone of it so that it turned out to be more how I envisioned Frida sounding.
Yeah, I ran into a similar problem with Descartes, actually. If you remember, we had these conversations about, he doesn't sound like a French guy to me, though. She needs to be French. He has to have that accent. And so I went with a voice that worked as well. And at the end of the day, you know, Josh doing his thing, he found a resource for voice. And so, you know, he was able to adjust the voice of this speaker to sound like a French speaking woman. And so now it's like, okay, great. We can go to these different tools and combine these elements to make something cool. And that just empowers someone like Josh, who has this technical visual skill already. And, you know, some of these no code tools will level up the rest of us that aren't quite there. But it's just cool that we can get here. We can start to do this type of stuff. You can see how it's exciting, and like we get passionate about it because it's exciting. Right? So
that's what we were talking about just this morning. I've spent the last month or so doing so many AI rendered images, and like I would spend 6 hours a day, and then at the end of the day I'd be like, man, that was a lot of what I did. But then I was telling Rodrigo, I sat back and I was like, this is my job. I just get to play with AI and Photoshop things and try to make things better for my students. It's exciting. So
very exciting stuff. Am I on camera now? I don't know if I'm on camera. Okay, cool. I'm like, wait, no, I'm not. It says my name.
You're on the Miramar AVL.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, hello everybody. I didn't know I wasn't on camera. Great to see you all. I do see some stuff in the chat. Maybe it was from before though.
Yeah.
Okay, well then I'm gonna hop off camera again so I can scroll through the presentation, but great to see you all. So let's get to the actual presentation then. If you want to stay in here, you want to check out this web space, just please remain in there or close it out. We do have the slideshow that we'll be going over in just a second. So let me share my screen one more time. And let's go through then. Art from words. Does it look okay on the thing? Okay, perfect. So art from words and then unlocking the creative potential with AI. And we've sort of already walked you through some of what we've done. So Josh Alley and Rodrigo Gomez, that is me, here we go. The artwork there on the right-hand side is made with AI. It was a prompt that actually I used it because it was one of those moments where I had some creative inspiration and I had this phrase in mind, and it was that the poet reaches down into the unknown to pull out some truth, which doesn't really seem like any poet is reaching into anything there. There's like this giant statue and this sun, this sort of moon, sun, eclipse in the sky. But I have hundreds upon hundreds of renderings of the same image with some that do look like a poet reaching down and some that do look like all kinds of different iterations. But this one kind of stood out to me as this, a giant statue in the desert or something, some cool figure. But in any case, it has a history is the point. And now because of AI, me as a non-graphic artist, as somebody who doesn't do this type of digital artwork, I'm associating, my identity is now linked to it in some way. I actually do make AI artwork, So here we go. You've already jumped into this metaverse world. So this is just the link to the spatial. If you are already in there, excellent. If not, you can click on that and join it. And later on in the presentation, actually maybe we'll give the link out right now in the chat so that you can actually have the presentation. And you can click on that Ready Player Me thing later, and you can create your avatar that actually looks like you, if you want to do what Josh and I did. Let's keep going here though. Sorry, one sec, F11, and let's present. So what are the benefits of using AI in education? Certainly some of the benefits are that you get to level up. And that's one thing that we've been talking about this whole day, really, Josh and I for a while now, and those of us that are invested in this AI conversation for as long as it's been around, but how can we level up? How can we grow in our practice? How can AI help improve our content to adapt it to the learning pace and style of each student? What is this new literacy? We've sort of already gone through that with the writing, and now we're looking at the artwork. And really, how does it lead to more critical thinking and creativity, which are essential for learning, at least in the conversations that Josh and I have had, and the things that we value about education. It really is about creation and purposeful use of time. And so if AI can stimulate a deeper engagement level, well, that's desirable in the classroom, I think. So this is where AI can maybe start to give us what we need or what we've needed. You know, AI can help make learning fun again, right? We're experimenting here with mixed media. Like we were saying, Josh with his Photoshop ability and his skill with graphics and his artistic skill is a superpowered being. And even I feel that way to some extent, even though I don't have as much technical skill. But here we're getting the coding sort of, the algorithms in the background are starting to level us all up. And so we have opportunities now to play with mixed media, make 3D graphics, right? That whole immersive world that we just showed you in spatial, you can load that up with 3D items that you've made. So one of the things that we've talked about doing is this virtual immersive approach, what you just experienced today, but for more formal presentations going forward. And, you know, maybe instead of a Zoom meeting, we're all hopping in spatial or whatever metaverse tool we're using. But because of what it offers, right, this new experience, this new connectedness in the virtual space, right? And the ethos is great. You can change the skin, you can alter your size of your body. There's not quite one-to-one mirroring yet. That's where the biases and some of the other things are going to come in. But all right, we're getting there in the conversation. We're leaning towards playful learning. I don't know if you want to speak to the playfulness of it all, Josh, but this is, you know, take the mic if you'd like.
I think I don't do as much the game-based learning that you do, but in my classes, because it is art history, I kind of force them into being creative, even though it's not like a studio art class. And I haven't fully embraced it yet as far as the students go, but my plan in the future is to have them, you know, working on their own AI stuff. And using that to help kind of push the discussions we have, like having them, if we're going over impressionist art, having them in class just jump on some website and make some AI impressionist art, and then discussing with each other what the AI got right, what it got wrong. Instead of just having them sit and look at the old masters like I've always done, it gets them more involved. And so I kind of view that as part of that sort of playful learning.
Okay, absolutely, absolutely. And then I know that experimenting with mixed media is something that we'll get into in just a moment with some of the exams and all that. But, you know, how can we use all of this? We're creating it, we're making it. So what? Well, it's for a purpose. It's for something that we've wanted to do. It's for improving what you already have. It's not going to give you this crazy new approach on its own, but it does empower. That's the part that we like. So let's go to the next slide here. So unlocking artistic potentials, some of the things that you can do with AI is create characters, create scenes, create settings, create models, create graphics, create entire worlds using AI. But this truth that I attached to my syllabus in my AI policy for my students remains true. And it's something that Josh and I here are sort of proving with our direct experience. It's weak prompts will generate weak results. And you really have to give it another go and try again and reiterate a few times. That's the best way to do it. So the inherent assumption is that AI will make creation of artwork easier, but it is more complex than that, right? We sometimes are doing more work, but it's creative work and we enjoy it. So that's the good thing. Now here is as we were saying, the example of our AI Elizabeth Lebrun and AI Frida Kahlo. So if you can see, we've rendered a bunch of different Lebruns. I mean, all of these, you can see where the hat was, right? So that's what we were saying was getting in the way. Some of these have a circular frame. You can really sort of see the difference between where it started with this Lebrun way over here and sort of where it ended way over here. And there's a lot of good and bad in there. There's a lot of different iterations that we had to make. We made different prompting commands, and despite all of that work, we decided, you know, none of these really look like Lebrun, so let's just use the Lebrun image itself. Josh was able to add some Photoshop magic. We should have added in the actual LeBrun image with the hat to show what you did there. And then here is the other Frida Kahlo sort of image, and you can see some of the differences like we were talking about. Some have flowers on the head, one had a giant sort of hedge, like what's in The Simpsons? What's her name with the big old hair? Marge, like Marge, right? Giant hair she had, and we had to cut it down so that it would work. But look at all those images, all rendered, all AI in Midjourney, and you know, some of it did work.
And they're not all of them either.
Right. Oh, yeah.
It's just because while Rodrigo, these are from his computer, while he was doing it on his computer, I was doing it on my computer.
Right.
So it's the idea is AI is going to make things easier for you if you want to do some of these artistic things, but you just have to go into an understanding. It is also very frustrating, and it is a process that you have to kind of learn as well.
Absolutely. And I think Josh is going to walk us now through his approach, right, to creating an Age of Enlightenment style painting. And what I love about this is that, you know, we're going to get the technical expertise here, because this is what people like me who do not have the language of the art world lack, right? This is really what you could say the literacy that I would be missing to really become as super powered in this department as Josh. And so here we go, right?
Right there. Yeah, because I want to have the images large.
Yeah.
I'll click through them.
Yeah, go for it. Switch.
Okay, so one of the reasons that I got so excited about AI is because of the sort of exams that I give my students. Again, it's art history, so what I tried to have them do, or what I was trying to have them do previously was I would pick images that they hadn't seen in class, and I would ask them, look at this image you haven't seen, and based off of the characteristics, what artistic time period would you say this is from and why? That worked really well before COVID, and then all of my classes were forced online. And so then I had to go into Photoshop and kind of alter images to try and make it so they couldn't reverse Google search them. Google just gets better and better every day as well. And so I was fighting this battle with Google, and eventually got to the point where I just couldn't beat Google. Like, no matter what I did to the images, they were able to just find them immediately. Which wasn't exactly a problem. You can ask me about that later on. Anyway, so what I decided then is, after I started learning about AI, is I could just have AI make these images for me. And then the students clearly wouldn't be able to find them because they don't actually exist in reality. So I started doing that, but ended up finding it was a little frustrating, because you prompt it, like in this example, it was supposed to be something from the Age of Enlightenment, and I was telling it to make an image that's in kind of the style of an artist named William Hogarth. And I think I did tell it, have it be this drunken man falling out of a window. And it gave me this fantastic image that you're looking at here, but that wasn't exactly the sort of image from Hogarth that I had shown them in class. And so I needed to expand that. So I had this good starting point. And then I said, okay, well, I also need someone in the crowd. So I said, create a Hogarth image that has a crowd of drunken people just in the street. And it was a bunch of different iterations. Again, I'm only showing you the ones that I ended up keeping, but again, it's like 20 images that I kind of go through before I find this one that I actually like. And so I said, okay, I've got this, the guy falling out of the window is great. I've got a crowd here, but I also need a street. And so I said, give me a street. And then this big dummy just is in the way. And I specifically said with this prompt, give me a William Hogarth style street with nobody on the street. And it gives me this giant figure right in the foreground. So I had a bunch of different renders of streets, and this is where I went into Photoshop then to now start creating what I actually want. I took one image of the street scene and got rid of the top part of that guy and kept the bottom part of that street scene. So I'm in Photoshop here kind of combining images together so that I can get more of the background scene that I want. Then I take those images of my drunken friends there and the guy falling out of the window, threw them on top of that, and it was looking pretty good. But I figured I should probably throw in a couple more characters here just to kind of add some more. But if you can see on the screen there, like underneath the bald drunken guy, there's this leg that's left over from our friend here. So then I had to go back in and get rid of that leg, get rid of some of the other things, the remnants, artifacts on the side. So anyway, the point I wanted to show you here is AI is fantastic. But it is misleading the way that AI is presented to a lot of us, that it is just, you immediately get the effect and the sort of artwork that you want. You have to, Rodrigo's talked about this over and over again in the past, you have to kind of develop your prompting skills, which I haven't developed as well as Rodrigo yet. And then if you are trying to make very specific images, you maybe need to develop some Photoshop skills or something like that to kind of get what you want. This, the amount of images that I rendered here is way less than the amount of images Rodrigo would have rendered to try and get the image that he would have wanted, because he's willing to just keep forcing the AI to kind of go down this path. I get to the point where I'm like, this is too frustrating. I'm just gonna do it myself.
Yep.
And so anyway, one of the things that we wanted you all to see was there is or can be this frustration with everything. But definitely give it a try and start using it for whatever creative advantages you're looking for there.
Then comes our carousel. Let's see. I do see a question here for you, Josh.
Okay.
It is, are there any specific filters or style options that you use? So this question, just to frame it for anybody in the room who is not quite aware of what Maggie is referring to here, you can really tell it to do it in the style of a certain painter or in the style of a certain time period. So Josh can be more specific here with his expertise on what he wants his artwork to look like, but I'll let him sort of take it.
Yeah, 100%. So when you do the prompt, my prompts are usually, I think for these examples, I was starting off by saying, in the style of William Hogarth, give me this scene of people on the street in like the 1700s. Maggie, you would recognize Hogarth more than the other people in here, and this isn't exactly Hogarth's style. This background with the street scene, I think, is pretty good, but like this figure in the foreground, this isn't exactly what you would expect from Hogarth in his style. And so that's part of the frustration too, is you try to prompt it and you give it all of these sort of filters or styles that you want it to pick up on, and it often won't. Like one of the issues I was having with is, like I would tell it, create it in this particular style, and then it would be a little too unrealistic. Like if I didn't include something about making things realistic, then the faces would be a little bit too, like they were bashed in by somebody. This guy that I have on the screen here, you can kind of see how wonky his one hand is. And that was even after telling it to be a little bit more realistic. So yeah, when you do the prompting, you want to tell it the sort of things, the styles that you want. In a minute, I'm going to show you like an array of different styles that I've been able to get it to do for the purposes of my exams. And each time I've had to be very specific about, okay, now I want it to look like the Middle Kingdom from ancient Egypt, or now I want it to look like it is from the Rococo period, or whatever it might be. So.
I remember what comes up next after this one.
It's kind of the carry on with
the
that
carousel.
discussion. Okay,
Yeah, go for it. The good and the bad. Here we go.
So we definitely want to get to the good, but again, we want to just kind of warn you all of the sort of strange things that come from this. And it's the prompting and the understanding of the AI makes it a little bit difficult. On one of my exams, I was trying to get a work of art that comes from an artistic movement called realism. And that movement is about people who are just kind of normal, everyday characters. It doesn't actually have to do with the style. So I got it to create, I said something like, I want these two sort of gardeners that look like they're from kind of the lower class. And I was using a website for this one called Stable Diffusion. And it's a pretty nice one if you have the patience for it, because it only renders like one image at a time and it takes a while for it to do it. But it has always been free for me, which has been the nice thing about it. Anyway, what I thought was interesting is with that particular website, if you alter your prompt, it actually kind of sticks with the same characters. But this wasn't exactly what I wanted. And as I kept going, it just kept getting weirder and weirder, where it was almost like these two gardeners, it was like a love story that was starting to develop between them, which was distracting from the actual thing that I wanted. And I don't know what happened, but it morphed into this. Like I don't know at all what I said to make the AI think I wanted this exposed chest for everyone to see. So that's kind of the frustration too, as you move along. One of the other examples that I like to show my students with kind of the frustration of AI is, this is a work of art that I said, I want you to make an image in the style of Edvard Munch that showcases this character kind of leaning in to his girlfriend for comfort. And this is the image. If you're familiar with Munch, I told it in the style of the Scream. This is the Scream, which I'm sure you all know. And then this is what it came up with. Like, I could not get it to acknowledge the style of Munch. And this is one where I had to go in and just kind of do it all myself. But
Yeah.
I also really love this image, and I wanted you all to see it because the more you look at it, the weirder it gets. With like the number of fingers,
Yeah.
the way that arms somehow wrap around people
The one up here is interesting.
inhumanely. Yeah, the hand up at the top, it's like it's her own hand holding its own hand. It's really just lovely stuff. And then Rodrigo, you had some examples here that you were gonna.
Yeah, these are so similar. These are limitations. These are the weaknesses. Yeah.
So sorry, just there's another question in the chat that's a follow-up. And so are these style choices just in your written prompts, or are there other advanced settings that you can choose? Trying to figure out which image generators offer the most variability.
All the ones that I have dealt with, it's all in the prompt. They, at this point, are not giving you a lot of that. Stable diffusion is the only one that has a drop-down menu that I found where it will let you choose kind of some styles. That hasn't been as helpful as I thought it would be. But if you're looking for something that does kind of give you that option, that stable diffusion one has a drop-down menu for that.
Yeah, this one here, just to kind of address that same question, this was made using Midjourney, which I think Josh and I have both collectively agreed it's probably the best of the tools out right now, Midjourney AI. There are links to these softwares down at the very bottom of Midjourney, DALL-E, and Stable Diffusion. This was just another example of like poor results, but you can also sort of start to see where the plagiarism comes in, right? Because I didn't mention Batman at all, but that character is wearing a sort of Batman, thing on his chest, and he's really looking like that's trying to turn into a bat cowl. And really the person next to him is maybe looking like a Robin, if that's what we're going with. But the point is, my prompt here was heroes clashing. It was just heroes clashing. If you go to the next one, this other one is again, heroes clashing. And you could see that there are limbs that don't belong, and the middle torso, the middle body of that character right in the center is completely out of proportion. The shield sort of in his leg. There's this whole, but it's clearly borrowing from Captain America and maybe Wolverine a little bit. And this character up on the bottom right is just not even a full, in any case, these are poor results showing you that it's not perfect. It's not quite there, but look what it can generate, right? If you go to the next image, my question to the audience would be, is this AI generated? Is that an AI generated image? What would you say, Josh? Since you're looking at it pretty closely there.
The only thing that would make me say yes is that character in the green and his weird hands.
Yeah, no, it is.
But other than that, I mean, especially the guy who I assume is like an instructor, it's very convincing.
It's very convincing. And all of those people are fake. And that classroom does not exist. And if you go to the next one, this is the same prompt, but with a different output. So now there's no class of students, but there is this teacher, and he is teaching this comic stuff. And if you go to the next one, this is more like what I was going for in the actual prompt. It was a comic teacher, right? That was made, so I had to adjust the prompting, adjust the language, give it parameters like comic style or anime or, purple hues, since I wanted purple.
Did you tell it at some point, like Professor Gomez? Is that why
No,
it says
no. No.
Gomez up top?
No, that was just, I have no idea what that word is. Actually, no, I did say a digital Professor Gomez, but I didn't provide it any pictures.
Right.
So that is just, the two previous gentlemen were also Professor Gomez. I could have given it a picture of me and maybe it would have gone in that direction. But the point is, going back to Josh's example of that composite image that he made. Right now, I could take that image, this new one that he created, upload that and tell it to render off of that. So maybe without the ability to Photoshop like he can, then I can take this composite image and tell it, start to blend these things. And I do have infinitely more patience because I lack the technical skill. See, that's where the difference truly lies. So the last example here, actually, there's one more there, also looks pretty real. Those are all fake students. That is a fake teacher. For that one, the face is the giveaway. If you really look closely, it's all like kind of scrunched up. But also the tripod, if you go back, right, it turned the whiteboard into a tripod because it was like a screen of some kind, needs support. Right. So in any case,
I was gonna jump in on these real quick because I don't know if a lot of you that are here had to do with it with guided pathways a little while ago. We were supposed to make our own videos, kind of introducing our subject areas. I wish that I had AI when I was doing that, because I was like Googling all of these images. I was like, give me an English professor in the classroom, and I could not find what I would have wanted. And when I saw these in the slideshow from Rodrigo, my thought was, this is exactly what I was looking for a year and a half ago, that I wasn't able to create. And so it's, these are the kind of wonky ideas, but there's all sorts of applications for these weird things.
Yep. And this last one I threw into the bad pile because I was looking to create a modern day, even futuristic, even cyberpunk Socrates, right? So that's sort of what it did. A lot of neons, a lot of weird lighting. He looks pretty good. This was the best Socrates that I could create from this style. But I can't explain to you what is happening in the background.
Right.
I have no idea what the heck that is. Those things are blending into each other. Homie right here with the finger up is just being inquisitive, so that's great. But over on the other side, there's some weird stuff. So, and also above them is like this council of audience just looking down. So maybe it's a lesson being developed. And I digress. Creative artworks like this can be what you make now. Just what can you create, and how do you eventually mold the clay so you can get rid of that weird thing on the left. New tools now are letting you sort of hover over that section and update that section only. So that's a new thing that is being done. You take sections of the artwork and it will fill it with something else. So little things that are developing over time, but weird stuff inevitably will emerge. So, and then I think we're going into the good, right? Then it's the good. So Josh can again speak here to the cool stuff he's made that looks weird but epic but cool.
Yeah. So a lot of these are images that I actually ended up using on my exams to give my students. The first, and what I wanted you to see is, again, the power of AI here. Midjourney has kind of its style, and you can often recognize a Midjourney generated image, but if you prompt it properly, it can match pretty much any style. It takes a little while to get there. So I wanted you to see just all the different images that I have been able to create, and I wanted you to see them side by side with actual art history examples, so you can see kind of the quality of these. So this first example, on my exam, I asked them to kind of differentiate between art depictions of the pharaohs from the Middle Kingdom in ancient Egypt versus the Old Kingdom. And so the one on the left is supposed to be the one that is from the Middle Kingdom. It's actually a little bit comical, but it gives exactly, nobody on the exam missed this one, because it's exactly what the kind of characteristics that they expect to find, especially with this like pouty, sad pharaoh. Here's the real Middle Kingdom era pharaoh looking just kind of sad and pouty, and you can see that. On the right is more what the Old Kingdom was supposed to be for ancient Egypt. And it's AI, I thought, did a fantastic job. It got the like Mimi's headdress, it got the Osiris beard, and it just to compare it, this is an image of a pharaoh named Khafra, one of the ones from Giza in those pyramids. And so it did a really nice job of that. My contemporary art class is taking an exam right now where they have to look at neo-pop art. And one of the more famous neo-pop artists is a guy named Jeff Koons. This is his depiction of Michael Jackson with his chimpanzee pet Bubbles. And so this is what I was channeling, and I told AI, I just randomly thought of it. I want something in kind of the style of Jeff Koons, just absolutely gaudy and covered in gold. And I originally had it creating an image, I think it was of a president with these giraffes behind him. And the giraffes looked fantastic, but I didn't like the image of the sort of president. And so I was thinking, who's a really recognizable, popular icon? Santa Claus. And so I went with that. And it rendered this, it was a completely different prompt or generation rather, but it still was able to kind of match with these giraffes really well. And then I had to go into Photoshop and combine them, but it worked really well. This is for my students, I was asking them to recognize what is called mannerism. It's this late Renaissance period, and it's really known for, this is the actual example, weird human proportions, long necks, elongated fingers, strange compositions. And so
that one's not AI.
no, this one is a
That's not
real
AI.
legitimate. Yeah.
Dude, that changes my perspective. So this is why I love the interdisciplinary conversation, right? Because a lot of the things that we've critiqued about AI are things like fingers. But if I would have assumed that this was AI simply because of the wonky fingers.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And so then I went into AI, and this was actually, let's see, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It was 7 different images that I had AI render, and then I went into Photoshop and combined them. Normally it would be like this sort of Mary figure with a child, and I was like, well, what's weird? Goats, let's give her some goats. And so
They have the perspective though, the look of sort of disdain.
Yeah.
Top down, very, yeah.
And it was very obvious to my students. I mean, the giveaway is these ridiculously long necks, so everyone got that one right. I wanted you to see also how it can create these images that look like so many different forms of media. This is meant to look like a quilt. You can tell it to render a quilt for you, and it'll make something that looks like someone's taken a photograph of a quilt. And I photoshopped this quite a bit. This is not the image I used on the exam. This was the thing that came from like Midjourney or whatever it was. And then I photoshopped it later on. I'm not showing you the Photoshop one, but it's based on these quilt books by an artist named Faith Ringgold from more contemporary art times. And so it allowed me to not show them again an actual Faith Ringgold, but something that if they've been paying attention, they would recognize as this quilt that would tie to her. Here is it can do completely abstract art if you need it to do that. This is based on an artist named Kandinsky, one of the kind of beginnings of abstract expressionists. I wanted to show you this example too, because this is one where it's another sort of limitation that you run into, which is actually pretty nice because these AI generators are not big fans of rendering nudity, which is in part because of deep fake issues that we've already brought up. But this is supposed to be based on the art of an artist named Egon Schiele. This is one of his famous self-portraits. And you'll notice the bottom half of him here is what I've had to put on this, because I wanted the students to see this nudity, and I wanted it to kind of relate to the things we talked about with this Austrian expressionism, but Midjourney wouldn't give me the nudity. So I had to just take something from his actual portrait. And so it's a very distinct style again from all these other ones we've looked at. This is one of the last styles here. This is Rococo. This is the actual kind of Rococo style. A lot of Rococo artists have a more painterly brushstroke, which is where you can actually see brushstrokes. I couldn't get Stable Diffusion or Midjourney to do that for me without ruining faces and making them look like they were victims of some terrorist attack. And so that's another one of those limitations, but my students wouldn't have any problem because of the other aspects of this recognized things as part of that Rococo period and all of that.
Nice.
All right, and I think those are the examples I had. Did you have any more? Yeah, you had some.
Yeah, there's a few in there. So this next one is just in the interest of the good. What can you make that's creative and cool? And so I was just working on my unit on rhetoric in the module on Canvas, and I was like, it's a lot of white space. Let's throw in a cool graphic. And I wanted them to show them a philosopher styled thinker with modern tech. So here is a statue of what looks like a philosopher thinking it with his laptop. In the background, again, you have some gibberish, some nonsense that you can sort of cast off as background noise, or you can cover it up with other graphics. So I thought this was actually something that I did use. So I'm showing it as part of the good, but then if you look at the next one, you can see the same prompt in a slightly different rendering. So this is the exact same prompt. He is still using new technology. Now it's not a laptop, now it's a phone. And again, what can you do with that? Where can you add it? How can you spruce up your materials? That was really the point behind that one.
That brings up one of the other frustrations I have with Midjourney and these websites is you get too many that you like. And it gets to the point where you're not sure, well, which one is actually the good one? Which one should I pick?
Yeah.
When Rodrigo first started doing this, he was on Discord and I was on the same channel watching him make things. And it was, he's going down this rabbit hole. Like I was there in the Discord at like 11 a.m. I would check back at like 6 p.m. and he's been in there the entire time, just re-rendering things because there's so many choices and you're like, oh, well, I love this. And you go down this path and then you see something like, oh, now I'm going to go down this path. And it gets real hard to kind of pick the one that you ultimately want there.
Yeah, absolutely. And, again, you have to make these decisions. And so the idea that you're not thinking creatively or critically as you're using AIs is simply untrue if you're looking at it through this framework. But I guess for the sake of time, we should maybe speed through this last part. Let me see if I can. Oh, I can show these real quick and then we'll sort of lean towards our final notes here. This next one was Lady Rhetoric. And so I really wanted to, this is the image that I was initially trying to create because it's in the style of.
This would be early Renaissance, Northern Renaissance even. Yeah.
See, he's got that background knowledge that I do not have. So I was like, give me a classic style, and the details led to that, but then I wanted a more modern style. So this was Lady Rhetoric in her full glory, and this was another version of Lady Rhetoric. But they are depicting this classic rhetorical depiction of Lady Rhetoric as both a lily and a sword. Right, so those are just items that I created for my class. If we go on to some of the AI advancements, this is what Josh wanted to showcase as far as the improvements of AI. So I'll let you speak to the Jesus that's crossing over.
Well, the thing that baffles me is I should have looked up when I rendered this, because I said to Rodrigo, like, look at how this was like 6 months ago. And then I thought about it, like, no, this is only like 2, maybe 3 months ago. That I told the AI that I was using, give me a version of Jesus dunking a basketball on his apostles. And so this is not great. Like, it's fun, but then if you go to the next one, in just a matter of like 2-3 months, the advancements that they've made in these AI generations, it's, to be honest, scary.
Yeah.
Because of how good it really is getting. And the hands here are still a little bit wonky, but they're way better. Like, you can't zoom in very well on these, but some of these hands you can see they have kind of wrinkles and knuckles. They have veins on them. They have 5 fingers instead of like 6 or 7 on a lot of them. So even Jesus in the center there, he's got like his 2 fingers up and the one. I mean, that's a symbol that you see constantly in religious art.
I love the look on his face. He's like, I gotta get this ball though, like for sure.
So anyway, it's really amazing how advanced this has all come in such a short period of time.
Yeah. Absolutely. And here are some character design concepts, just stuff that I've created on the side. Again, like Josh was saying, just render by render by render by render. This character here becomes that character there by changing the parameters, some of the same stylistic choices, new colors, right? All the same prompt, but just rendered differently. And there are improvements. It's getting better and better is the point. When we move into some of the limitations, though, it's fun to remember and recall some of these issues that we had. Like, I teach a graphic novel in my classroom called Day Tripper. Main character's name is Bras de Oliva Domingos. So we were trying to make a Bras styled image, a Day Tripper styled image, and what we got was a bra. So the limitations in linguistic expression are not quite there yet. I mean, Josh was trying to render a map of, what was it exactly?
I told it, just give me a map of Europe and World War, I think it's in Germany, actually, World War I, 1914, and all its territories. And it's impressive. I mean, you can tell this is Europe, but these are all supposed to be that map of Europe from 1914 and all those different territories, and they're obviously all just very different. It's just made stuff up.
Right.
So-
And here as well, right? So you've got this made stuff up. Well, it's got a great graphic, but it's nonsense that's there. You can't
Yeah.
really read it. It serves as a nice template for doing something else yourself.
If you're wanting to tell it to do script or writing, you're gonna run into problems.
Yes, and these are cases in point, right? So here's a graphic that for me was like, hey, I want somebody in a rhetorical situation. And then it gave me this, but the words up there are nonsense. I'd have to cover them up or put something over it, or, you know, add some graphics on Photoshop or Canvas or whatever. Same graphic rendered again. And this is what Josh was saying about, you know, I took the image and then I made it again, and then I made it again, and then I made it again. And, you know, it looks like this at first, and then it looks like that, and then it looks like that at some point. And I like this one more. I ended up going with this because it was a bit vague in the background, but there's just someone there looking at ideas, exploring the world a certain way. Here's another graphic, looks like a great infographic. The information is nonsense. You'd have to actually do something with it. And then I think there was.
But that is also a nice thing, like, cause it's, you don't need advanced Photoshop skills to go in and add in the text that you actually want. So it'll give you some visuals to start with, and then you can go in and alter it the way that you need.
Yes, and some of the stuff that's coming as well, there are new data AI artworks to consider. So we were actually just looking at this one earlier today. It's a data set. Basically, it's the merging of data in the sort of STEM space. Is STEAM. It's very STEAM. It's like take the data and make it artistically rendered. And I'll let you guys watch that video later on, just for the sake of time. We're over time here, but it was a cool project to consider. So check it out later on. Word visualization is stuff that Josh has done here with his art history class, just to show you what you can do with these things. I've done stuff like this for my banners for my courses as well. How can you use art to give you these new things that some of us used to make on like word art, or like, you know, Microsoft Word had that like word art thing that could make you, this is the new word art, I suppose.
Just for anyone that happens to have an Adobe subscription, Adobe they have an AI image generator now called Firefly. And then it's not exactly Firefly, but it's the same thing from Adobe. And one of the reasons I wanted you all to see it is, again, I'm presenting things that are very geared towards art history, but these are the sort of things that you could do to just spruce up your classes, to make things more visually engaging. And if you don't have that artistic background, now you can get AI to do it for you and really make something visually appealing.
Absolutely. And so we teased AI Josh earlier. Here is again what you could do, add an animation, add a script. And yes, you have to take your photo, but then it will do the rest. So
if there's children in the room, this will terrify them.
Yeah, so this won't sound like Josh, but here we go.
I finally got exam 2 up. Mainly, I just needed to update the images, which were terrible. I didn't bother with any AI images this time. So, you need to really wow me with context and explanations. I asked you to identify the time periods, but almost all the points are really going to come from the explanations, just like last time. Thursday, class is just study hall. I'll be in there if you need a quiet place to hang out or want to ask questions.
There you go, AI Josh, right? So you can take your image and animate some of your text if you really wanted to.
And again, this took me like all of 2 minutes to create.
Yeah. Sorry, Laura's over here like, I am fully laughing out loud over here. Amazing. Absolutely.
This is really weird, but Rodrigo and I have talked about this a lot, and we're really excited about this because eventually, again, we'll be able to find some AI that will talk to it and it'll know what our voice is supposed to sound like. And there will be times where you don't have time to make an actual video for the class, and you'll be able to just take your digital avatar, type up some text, the AI already knows your voice, and then you can just throw it all together. And hopefully it gets a little bit less uncanny and weird like this.
Right, I am not a robot. I am.
Exactly. But I stole the text here from an actual announcement that I made, and the announcement was just that text in an announcement. And when this isn't as creepy, I think this will be a much more engaging announcement for the students to be like, oh, he didn't have time to make something, but he's trying to make himself look human here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And for online classes that are fully online, Josh and I were like, well, we already have materials up, descriptions that are explaining assignments or walking students through activities. Like, what if we could get a good version, AI version of ourselves to deliver that material? Just another medium, right? You still have the written text up on the website so that they can look at it, but hey, you're doing some cleaning, click play on this button. It's just going to read it for you. And if it can do it in my voice, great. If it can do it in Josh's voice for his class, great. It'd be weird once we start using each other's avatars for like, here's Professor Allie delivering some content. Josh is like, I didn't write this. What is this, right? Like,
that is a big issue with AI. You have to make sure you're not stealing people's images.
Well, Josh has technically given his likeness to DID here by uploading himself. So I can now go through and make an AI Josh if I want to. This is part of the data privacy issues that are a big concern, and we're kind of making light of it here because it is a little funny, but it will become a big thing with plagiarism and deep fake and people saying things that they didn't actually ever say, right? So some final, I guess, techniques for interdisciplinary collaboration to show you kind of what we were focusing on and why. We wanted to identify opportunities. That's like number one, right? Where can we use this? How can we use this? Josh and I have talked for a long time, just in passing down the hallway, about how can we make our classes more interdisciplinary and like support what we're doing, because it seems like there is overlap. This is just an easy way to do it. There's opportunities when I'm teaching the Odyssey and these classical mythologies to focus on the artwork that was part of that depiction and that retelling, right? So give them a reason to look at both disciplines. This is where we've talked about doing a metaverse world that has all these materials already there, and we can use them collectively. So an opportunity for collaboration, right? Forming collaborative teams, right? I mean, that's really what we're all doing here. Those of you that are here, those of you that are attending these PDs, you're really taking it into account and saying, I want to level up and let's be part of this community of practice. So let's be a team here and help each other out with our expertise. Develop a project plans. Definitely you need to have some structure. Obviously, we know this as lesson planners and creators ourselves. So let's use these tools. Like what we did today was a good example of what Josh and I have been able to do with our own expertise in our own time. But we would love to work with others who are doing some cool stuff, or you just have ideas that you don't know how to push into this domain. Let's talk about it. Let's support each other is really the goal here. And pilot projects. I mean, again, this is, if we can now design something special using these tools for our students, that'd be fantastic. There are some advanced strategies for collaboration, right? Having an actual AI hub is the goal, I believe, of the district. So we're going to get more and more support in this interdisciplinary AI situation. Cross-disciplinary education becomes much more important, right? So you can really involve any discipline and make it part of the conversation. Long-term research initiatives are important because this is new. This does require student input, teacher input, admin input. There's a lot here. So what is the benefit long-term? How can we use it? And I did throw in here industry partnerships and international collaboration, just because those are new possibilities as this new tech becomes so dominant. So maybe we have to partner with what's the company that's making OpenAI, right? Partner with them so that they can facilitate our usage and the usage for our students of all of this software, not at a cost to them, right? So they would use it because the school is paying for it for everybody to be able to use it, type of thing. Maybe it's a partnership that ensues and we don't pay for it. That'd be great. Right, so final thing here. We do have to address, remember, AI is biased. That's not going away. It can only see what you feed it. A good example of that was actually Josh looking for a portrait of an art historian, and he very much found what he was looking for as far as an art historian. Here's what it showed, and it was mostly male art historians that looked just like Josh, actually. Right? So we talked about, wait, where's the variety? Where's the female art historians? Where's the multicultural art historians? And it was like, no, you have to prompt it for that. And maybe even upload yourself as an example of an art historian so that it can filter out those, add to the data set. As far as technological inequity, you know, one of the questions that we just asked in passing was, what happens if you don't learn this stuff? And honestly, that question is just so much in my mind. Like, what happens if you don't learn this stuff? And so I'm very much trying to learn all of it. I'm glad to see that we are forming this conversation of practice, and like we're all just interested and curious in what it can do. Essential, because it will lead to what could be considered an literacy gap, right, with AI. So ethical questions remain, right? Plagiarism still an issue, deep fake still an issue, research issues somewhat improved, not as relevant in the art space. Do you have students create artwork to submit?
Not yet. That is the plan, though. Yeah.
Okay, so like, but he will allow for the creation of that artwork to some extent with AI, so that will be part of the examination. It won't be a student, for example, plagiarizing an essay and then submitting it as their own work. Not unless you've allowed them to outline, brainstorm, do a few things, maybe even some revising with AI, but we've had some of those conversations already. I digress. We'll continue that on to the next one. And basically the last thing here is the tools that we use for the presentation are Midjourney AI, DALL-E, which is associated with Bing, and Stable Diffusion. And if you are enjoying this presentation and you want to publish anything, it is Inside English will be publishing at the end of, actually the beginning of next year, the beginning of 2024. So there is a call for papers where you may submit. There is also one more presentation. So thank you guys for attending, those of you that have been to the previous ones. This one was Art from Words, Unleashing Creativity with AI for Educators. If you have any questions, please send them to Josh, send them to myself, send them to Laura, and she'll send them to us, and we'll figure something out. But basically, thank you for joining us. I know we've gone a little bit over time. We did start a tiny bit late, so thank you for sticking around. That is all. Right? I do see we have some people hopping off here. Thank you again for being here. Great, awesome. Any final questions? Any final words? If not, we can definitely start to head off. So, what do you think, Laura? Is there any final statement here? Shall we hop off Zoom? Call it a day?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not seeing anything else in the chat right now. I did wonder though, are you two at all concerned about uploading your images, or do you feel like at this point it seems safe, you feel comfortable and it has given you lots of opportunities? Yeah, what's your take?
I joked with Rodrigo about that and my wife a while ago. I can't remember. Oh, it was actually a long time ago. I don't know if you all remember, there was this app that everybody was on their phone with, and they were taking a selfie and then uploading it, and this AI was like turning them into like famous artworks. And my wife said that she had done it, and I said, well, that's great. You've uploaded your image there, and now the AI knows who to go after when it revolts. And I was just joking, and I kind of just feel like, personally, I'm not too concerned about it because of how depressing our world is in general. Google knows everything about us already. And so I don't have the same fear with that. But that's also me saying that as a man. I've talked to some of my colleagues of the other gender and one of the other genders there. And they have a real concern. I know one of my colleagues will not put any of her images up on her online classes because she does not want those images taken and used in pretty terrible ways.
Yeah.
That's why it was frustrating when we were doing the Frida Kahlo thing, but I was like, I love that it did this. I love that it wouldn't let us take this famous image and mess around with it, that it does have some policing in place. The unfortunate thing is it won't have that maybe eventually for just normal people and their images. But there are people that are taking seriously this need to police it. So yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with pretty much all of that. I mean, I've taken pictures with my phone, which have been uploaded to the internet. So, even when I look at my galleries on my phone, it's like, oh, my phone can filter for my face. That's interesting. It can filter for my daughter's face, by the way. It can filter for anybody. If I have a picture with Josh, I can filter for Josh's face. So the idea is I think it's misunderstanding the situation a little bit. Like, can we avoid this? Not really, but I would take the parameters that Josh is taking by saying, well, I understand that certain individuals can have their images used or misused a certain way. So let's be careful with what we allow for. Let's be cautious about what we do upload. Sure, certainly, absolutely. For myself, when I think about uploading my image and creating this AI chatbot or AI avatar like AI Josh, I would pretty much protect it behind the firewall of the Canva shell. So it wouldn't be out in the public. I know that the things that that Josh has created with AI that are video form, he puts up on YouTube, but they're behind private links. So you still have controls over what you are publishing and creating, so definitely fall back on those. But yeah, once it's in there, it can search for something like you. So maybe when you look for a Hispanic instructor with glasses and a beard, like my face will pop up, and that's that, and you'll be able to adapt it or use it if you like. I'm not so concerned with it like Josh, because I feel like the benefit outweighs the deficits for me. Yeah, and I'm definitely playing with the AI, so there's really no turning back for me in this. And I have not uploaded my image for that very same reason, though. Josh definitely did that first, and I was like, should I? And mostly for me, it was that I didn't have a picture that I liked. So I'm glad that you just did it with just here I am, digital me.
I took a selfie this morning, and my thought was, this is so terrible. Of a photograph that no one would ever consider using it.
Right. So considering those things is important for sure. Yeah, that would be my answer.
Super interesting. Thank you both so much. If you have a couple more minutes too, I do have one other question, which, I mean, this seems so exciting, and there are so many possibilities, but I did have a moment when you were talking about creating things in the style of this artist, or, kind of based on this artist's work. I'm sure there's not a singular opinion, but how is the art community responding to this? I mean, are people feeling like, hey, you're now able to take my work and recreate it? Or are people like, yeah, no, I want to use this too? What do you think the response is? And again, I'm sure that there are varied responses.
It's really varied. Jessica, for example, was just telling me about an artist he's a very famous artist from like the 1980s, who is currently teaching some AI to be able to paint in his style. I guess as some way to gain immortality or something like that. Mm-hmm. My students are terrified by it because of the fear of it taking jobs from them, of ripping them off, like you were mentioning. Last week, Rodrigo and I and Jessica and some other faculty from the art department, we sat down with one of our studio art professors. His name is Asa, and he's all about AI. And so the whole point was him kind of showing us the things he's doing with AI. He comes from a little bit more of a graphic design background, and so it was a little bit different of a dynamic than like Jessica coming from painting. But it is very varied, and there are real issues with it. The way that AI knows how to create images is from what it has learned. And so what it has learned is based on art that it has seen, which means it is 100% plagiarizing past art and artists that are even around now. And so there is a big part of the art community that wants there to be something done about that, some acknowledgement maybe, or some parameters put in place where their art won't be ripped off, where they do get the credit or something along those lines. It gets even more problematic where then if you render something in AI and then you profit from it, that's copyright and plagiarism issues that are coming up. So nobody has the answers yet because it is so new and just kind of slapped us in the face so quickly. But there are definitely big concerns with it.
One of the things we took away from that meeting as well was Asa's perspective, which was, he's looking at it as there is no new art that does not take or borrow from someone else's style. And so his point really was using the example of the Into the Spider-Verse. The person who created the visual style for Into the Spider-Verse was paid a very small amount or let's say a fine amount, but he was paid to do this work. But then AI is now producing work in that same style. And when you go and you prompt for, I want the artwork in this style, it's not in the name of the artist who created that style. It's in the style of the Spider-Verse. So this company essentially owns that artistic style, even down to the name now. It's not a, Le Brun style painting, it's the Spider-Verse. Well, where's the artist in that case? So this was one example of like the type of legal issues that already exist within the art world, and how this doesn't really add more. It's just more of the same. It's just maybe more complex because now you're forced to talk about it out in the open, but it's no different than what's been around as far as legal, copyright. Now certain AIs are telling you I can't do that because that is copyrighted material. Great, we're gonna have to have those parameters built in. But as far as the artwork, I think we're hearing that it's mixed bag, and those who are in favor are arguing that, listen, it's all homage anyway. It's all in reference to, it's all in the style of anyway, right? When you go and you learn certain art styles, when you go learn certain writing styles, right? It's the same thing. You're learning a process, a method. In any case, I digress. That's sort of the conversation. It's that it is a little bit worrying, but some of us are jumping in, and those of us that are jumping in are realizing there's a phrase, and I've said it before. It's not AI that will replace you. It's someone using AI that will replace you, right? Because this is the point. You're learning this new literacy. You're empowering yourself in this new way. And there are certainly legal issues, but like Josh was saying, nobody has the answers. So approach with caution, work with it to some extent, to whatever capacity you're willing to work with it.
I'm excited about it as an art historian. It's like I feel like I'm living in this moment that is going to be in the art history textbooks later on, and it's just right in my face. I've been comparing it when I talk to my students about it to the invention of the camera. When the camera came out, all the generations before the camera came about, they were trying to make paintings that were photorealistic, and then some jerk invented the camera, and they were like, well, if the camera can do this photorealism, then why are we still doing that in painting? And that's basically where modern art develops from. And I've been telling my students, like, you're living in this moment where now it is this huge kind of paradigm shift, and you have to figure out what art is supposed to be now. And so it's terrifying, but also this should be really exciting for you. So in a world where AI can do all of this, what can you do that AI can't, and how can you push the arts in this kind of new direction?
Yeah, no, absolutely. How does this push both artwork and composition? I mean, really both are composing processes now. with this AI intermediary supporting the creation of new artworks, but like, how do we have to redefine art now if the art is being made in this way? And how do we redefine writing in the same capacity? Because clearly the machine can, output an entire essay to my prompt in 30 seconds. So maybe I need to be using it differently, or adapt how I use it, or think about new forms of assessments, etc. We consider outcomes if we need to, right? Based on what is the machine now capable of doing easily? And then how can we maintain the level of higher order thinking and rigor and creativity, but with these new tools?
Really fascinating. Thank you guys. This has been so interesting. I feel like I learned so much, and thank you everyone who joined today. Can't wait for part 5.
Thank you guys. Thank you for being here. Definitely part 5 will be focused on the entrepreneurial side of things. Maybe we'll try to get some of these companies that are building on AI to come and present with us. So it's not just me up here talking. Thank you to Josh for joining me in this one and agreeing to kind of, do this very last minute. Here was, I think we've talked about all this a lot. And so it was a very organic, natural presentation for us because we've been working with this in the background. But that's what we want to encourage more of. Is just get out there and work with your colleagues, people, and see what AI is doing to their discipline and how you can collaborate creatively. I mean, that's certainly an admirable and desirable goal for a college. We've talked about it a lot. So maybe now this tool is forcing us to do it because the students are starting to talk about it. Certainly my students are starting to talk about it. Josh's students are going to start to talk about it. So more and more students will know, more and more people will know, more of you will start to have questions. And as they develop, please just reach out to any of us who have some answers, and we'll try to guide you how we can. There's great resources being developed at the district. These PD series are great. But any concerns, any specific questions you have, we could definitely address those. So again, thank you guys for joining us, and see you at the next one.